years it did, and they were mistaken. You could not ignore that challenge. Then, of course, for me, there's of course movies, films. That's another discussion, But soul music, incredibly important. The blue collar grit of soul music. I was brought up on a back street. I learned how to love before I could eat. Now, even though I personally learned how to eat long before I knew how to love, I knew what he was talking about. It was the music of gritty determination, of the blues, of the church, of the earth, and of the sex-soaked heavens. It was music of sweaty perspiration and drenched demands for pleasure and respect. It was adult music. It was sung by soul men and women, not teen idols. And then it was the silken sequined aspirational sounds of Motown. That was something smoother, but I was no less powerful than Stax. There was the beautifully socially conscious soul of Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions. We're a winner. Keep on pushing. Just great records that just filled the airwaves at a time when you couldn't have needed them more. You just couldn't have needed them more. Woman's Got Soul. What a beautiful, beautiful record to win. It's All Right. It was the soundtrack of the civil rights movement. It was here amongst these great African-American artists that I learned my craft. You learned how to write. You learned how to arrange. You learned what mattered and what didn't. Learned what a great production sounds like. You learned how to lead a band. Learned how to front a band. These men and women, they were and they remain my masters. And by the time I reached my 20s, I'd spent 1,000 nights employing their lessons in local clubs and bars, honing my own skills. I was signed as an acoustic singer-songwriter, but I was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Signed by John Hammond at Columbia Records, along with Elliot Murphy, John Prine, Loudon Wainwright III. We were all new Dylans. The old Dylan was only 30. So I don't even know why they needed a fucking new Dylan. All right? But those were the times. 30 was, but I had nights and nights of bar playing behind me to bring my songs home. Young musicians learn how to bring it live and then bring it night after night after night after night. Your audience will remember you. Your ticket is your handshake. And the ability, these skills gave me a huge ace up my sleeve. And when we finally went on the road and we played that ace, we scorched the earth, because that's what I was taught to do by Sam Moore and by James Brown. There is no greater performance than James Brown burning ass on the Rolling Stones at the Tammy Show. Sorry, my friends. And I fucking love the Stones, but James Brown, Boys and Men, you were screwed. Yeah, I think I'll go on after James Brown. Oh yeah, can you put me in the schedule somewhere after James Brown? Fuck, no! Get out! Go home! Save it! Don't waste it, man. I had a great thing with James Brown. I went to see James Brown one night, and he kind of knew me. I was sitting in the audience, and suddenly I heard, "Ladies and gentlemen, Magic Johnson," and Magic Johnson was on stage. And "Ladies and gentlemen, Woody Harrelson," and he was on stage. And then I'm sitting in my seat watching. And I hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Born in the USA," And I realized he didn't know my name, but he knew So I ran my ass up there as fast as I could. I can't tell you, man. Standing on stage alongside of James Brown, you know, it was like, fuck, what am I doing here, you know? You know, it was just, you know, and we just went and went and went. But he's his influence. James Brown, underrated, still today, underrated. You know, he's Elvis. He's Elvis. You know, he's Dylan. And then Dylan, from whom I first heard a version of the place that I lived that felt unvarnished and real to me. If you were young in the 60s and 50s, everything felt false everywhere you turned. But you didn't know how to say it. There was no language for it at the time. It just felt fucked up, you know. But you didn't have the words. Bob came along and gave us those words. You know, he gave us those songs. You know, and the first thing he asked you was, "How does it feel, man? How does it feel? You know, to be on your own." And if you were a kid in 1965, you were on your own because your parents, God bless them, they could not understand the incredible changes that were taking place. You were on your own, you know, without a home. He gave us the words to understand our hearts. You know, he didn't treat you like a child. He treated you like an adult. He stood back and he took in the stakes that we were playing for. He laid them out in front of you. I never forgot it. And Bob is the father of my musical country now and forever. And I thank him. You know. But the great trick I learned from Bob, if it could be done, is he still does one thing that nobody can do. He sings verse after verse after verse after verse. It doesn't get boring. That's almost impossible. But Dylan he didn't write about something. He wrote about everything that mattered at once in every song, it seemed like. I said, yeah, I want to, you know, and he pulled it off. I said, yeah, I like that. I want to try that. So now I'm in my late 20s, and I'm concerned, of course, getting older, you know. I want to write music that I can imagine myself singing on stage at the advanced old age, perhaps of 40, you know. I wanted to grow up. You know, I wanted to twist the form I loved into something that could address my adult concerns. And so I found my way to country music. I remember sitting in my little apartment playing Hank Williams' greatest hits over and over. And I was trying to crack its code because at first it just didn't sound good to me. It just sounded cranky and old-fashioned, you know. But it was that hard country voice, and I'm playing it, and it was that austere instrumentation. But slowly, my ears became accustomed to its beautiful simplicity and its darkness and depth. And Hank Williams went from archival to alive for me before my very eyes. And I lived on that for a while in the late 70s. In country music, I found the adult blues, the working men's and women's stories I've been searching for, the grim recognition of the chips that were laid down against you. My bucket's got a hole in it. I'll never get out of this world alive. Lost highway. The great Charlie Rich song, life has its little ups and downs, like ponies on a merry-go-round. No one grabs a brass ring every time, but she don't mind. Oh, fuck, that was like, she wears a gold ring on her finger, and it's mine. Oh, my God. You know, that could reduce me to tears now. You know, it was so much. Working man's blues, stoic recognition of everyday reality and the small and big things that allow you to put a foot in front of the other and get you through. I found that country's fatalism attracted me. It was reflective, it was funny, it was soulful. But it was quite fatalistic. You know, tomorrow looked pretty dark. One thing it was rarely politically angry, it was rarely politically critical. And I realized that fatalism had a toxic element. If rock and roll was a 7-day weekend, country was Saturday night hell raising, followed by heavy Sunday morning coming down. Guilt, guilt, guilt. I fucked up. Oh my God. You know, but as the song says, would you take another chance on me? That was country. Country seemed not to question why. It seemed like it was about doing, then dying, screwing, then crying, boozing, then trying, you know. And as Jerry Lee Lewis, the living, breathing personification of both rock and